city of League City. We're glad to have you out here today. My name is TJ Alds. I am the mainland editor of the Galveston County Daily News, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's forum. It's our first of 4 forums at the Galveston County Daily News we'll be sponsoring this year. First off, I would like to introduce one of our co-sponsors of the event tonight, Lori Baldwin, the president of the League City Chamber of Commerce. She has a few words. And also, new to our part, so he wanted to have a chance to talk to you all. I'd like to introduce the president and publisher of the Galveston County Daily News, Mr. Leonard Woolsey, who has, and would like to welcome you all out here today.
Thank you all. Thank you for having me up here. First of all, I want to say congratulations. A couple months ago, I was up in Washington, D.C. I was seeing politics. This is where politics starts. This is where politics. This participation level, you folks being out here today. All these candidates, I think, first of all, offer them a round of applause. That being said, I hope that you get the information. I encourage you to step forward and ask questions.
And if I can ask everyone to please stand, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance before we get going. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, one with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Well, okay, we will do. I'm sorry, I'm getting used to the old council meetings now. All right. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Good. Thank you all very much. First off, before we get going, a little technical check here. Let's make sure all the candidates know how to work their microphones, and I will do so by first introducing. All you have to do is step forward and say hello from our County Court number 2 race, the incumbent, Barbara Roberts.
Hello.
And her challenger, Jonathan Kiesnick.
Good to see y'all.
On County Court number 3, the incumbent, Carrie Foley.
Good evening.
Bring the mic a little bit closer to you there, Judge.
Good
Thank
evening.
you very much. Then Jack Ewing.
Good evening.
Byron Falk.
Good evening, everyone.
And Donnie Quintanilla.
Hello, everyone.
Good. That will be our panel for tonight. It is 2 races featuring, since they were all going to get the same questions, we figured we'd put them all on the hot seat at the same time. County Court number 2 to my left and County Court number 3 candidates to my right. We did a random draw earlier how we'll be doing the questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. That'll be followed by questions with 1-minute responses from each, and then a 1-minute close by each candidate. We will rotate throughout who gets to answer each question first. As we did in our drawing, our candidates for County Court number 2 will start first, and with her opening statement. For 2 minutes, Judge Roberts.
All right, thank you, and thanks for hosting this event. I'm Barbara Roberts. I am currently the judge of Galveston County Court at Law number 2, and I am asking for your support in the upcoming Republican primary in March. I'm proud of the record that we have had over these last 3 years, and I want to share those accomplishments with you. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about the 3 county courts. The county courts hear misdemeanor cases. These are cases in which the maximum punishment is up to 1 year in county jail and or a maximum fine of $4,000. Additionally, the courts hear civil cases, family law cases, and juvenile cases, which involves crimes committed by individuals younger than 17 years of age. We also hear all appeals from the JP courts, as well as all eminent domain cases, which are takings. During my tenure on the bench, I have substantially reduced reduce the number of cases on the court's docket by setting cases for trial, ordering the parties to mediation, and dismissing frivolous lawsuits and those in which the parties are not timely pursuing. This ensures that cases are not delayed and that I'm able to apply the law as established by our legislature in a timely, efficient, and fair manner to each case. In the first 30 months that I've been in office, I disposed of almost 15,000 cases. I have greatly reduced the length of time that cases remain on the docket before final disposition. I have also instituted a policy in which anyone who is arrested for DWI must have an interlock device on their vehicle as a condition of bail. They have not yet been convicted of DWI, but they must have that interlock division. The bottom line is that I made promises to voters in 2010, and I have upheld those promises. I am asking for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. For the audience to know, we do have, Lori is keeping our timing up here. The yellow bulb is the 30-second. The red bulb is the cutoff at the end. Now with his introduction, Jonathan Kiesnick.
My name's Jonathan Kiesnick. I'm a candidate for County Court at Law Judge number 2. And as you size up my suitability for this position, I want you to know one thing, that I'm committed to the fundamental principle that courtrooms should be a haven for impartiality, not politics. Far too often these days, political influence and fear of political consequence influences a judge's decision. People forget about the fact that our founding fathers were brilliant when they constitutionally separated the powers, legislative or the political branch, from our judicial branch. I won't forget that. I won't forget that. I'm going to be impartial. It won't matter anything about politics. I'm going to apply the rule of law as written, not as I might want it to be or as someone else might want it to be. I can guarantee you that for those that come in my courtroom, if I'm elected, that it's not going to matter whether they share my political affiliation. Their social status isn't going to make a difference in the outcome of my decision, and their financial standing will have no outcome or will not be outcome determinative either. If people come into my courtroom, the only thing they're going to have to worry about is whether they've abided by the law. If they have, then they'll be protected, as innocent, law-abiding citizens should be, and as they deserve. If they have not abided by the law, then they'll be punished. And that's true both in the criminal context, in a criminal case, as well as a civil case. There'll be just punishment for those that violate the law. Bottom line is, people that come into my courtroom will be governed by the law, but I too will be governed by the law. No judge is above the law, and I would never forget that fact. I've been practicing law for 17 years. I'm ready to take charge and get this done. You'll hear more about my background as we go along, but I've worked on both sides of the docket. I've handled civil cases, criminal cases. I'm board certified in personal injury trial law. I sure hope I can earn your vote, and I appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you very much. All right, now to our County Court number 3 candidates, and with her opening statement, 2 minutes, Judge Carrie Foley.
Good evening, everybody. I want to thank you for coming out on this cold evening to hear from the candidates. I want to tell you, I am the judge in County Court 3. I was appointed to that position. I was approached by the Commissioner's Court to accept that appointment. At the time that I was approached with the possibility of that appointment, all 3 of these other candidates were in the race. I was not in the race. I cannot speak for the commissioners. I will let you draw your own conclusions. I will tell you that I am the only person in this race with any judicial experience. I have worked very hard in County Court 3 since I've been there. I was appointed in June, and I have a phenomenal staff, and we have worked very hard to bring order and integrity to that court. And in approximately 8 months, we have disposed of over 3,000 cases. I have only received positive feedback for how that court is running under my watch. And prior to my time in County Court 3, I was the presiding judge. That's the judge that runs the court here in League City for 11 years. And I was also the judge out in the juvenile court in Galveston County for 2 years. So I have successfully run 3 courts in this county. I have been a judge in this county in some capacity or another for 11 years. And if experience is important to you, I would ask for your support in the primary. Thank you.
And now Jack Ewing.
Good evening. I'm so happy to be here, and I just wanted to share a few things with you as we start off this evening. First of all, I am the one candidate in this race with more than 27 years of experience. That's 10 years more than any other candidate in this race. In that time, over these 27 years, I have handled over 1,700 cases and over 150 trials. And I'm proud to say that in those cases that I have handled, they cover all areas that are handled by County Court 3, civil, criminal, and as well as family. And I've had jury trials in each and every one of these areas of law. That's more than some of the candidates here can say here this evening. When you go to build a house, you just don't want somebody that can build a foundation or just build a roof or just build parts of your house. You want somebody that can do the entire job, that knows the law, each and every area of the law covered by this court, and I am that candidate. I've also been very active in the community. I've served 10 years as a senior pastor of Faith Community Church in Boa Vista, and I'm an associate municipal judge of Kemah, and I am the past city attorney for Lamarck. I plan to put all this experience, professional experience, as well as my community experience, to work for you. This is a troubled court, and it needs to get back on track, and we need to restore honesty and integrity and your faith in that court. So I hope that when you go to the polls, that you'll remember to vote for Jack Ewing, because remember, if you don't know Ewing, you don't know Jack.
And next up with his introduction, Byron Folk.
Hi, everyone. My name is Byron Folk. This is the first time I've ever run for any office. I'm running for judge for County Court number 3. My lovely wife, Carol's in the audience. Raise your hand, Carol, so everyone can see you. We've got an awesome, precocious 9-year-old son, Jonathan, who's at someone else's house tonight for obvious reasons. We don't want him running up and down the aisles. We're all very experienced up here. You've got 4 good candidates for this position. That's the good news. Let me talk about my experience. When I was in law school, with my 3rd-year bar card, I did an internship with the Fort Bend County District Attorney's Office, prosecuted about 15 cases there, won all of them. When I became an attorney, I was teaching full-time at Bay Area Christian School while I was in law school, so I got out of law school without any debt whatsoever, no student loans. I got my first job in Galveston with Martin Garza and Fisher Law Firm on 25th Street in Galveston. My direct supervisor there was Emily Fisher, who's board certified in family law, and she trained me in family and civil law. And my supervisor for criminal law was now Judge John Ellisor. He was working there while he was running to become the first Republican judge elected in this county since Reconstruction. And he supervised me in criminal law, and I basically stepped into his law practice when he took the bench January of 2003. I've tried about 24 serious cases as a criminal defense attorney, which is my main area. By serious cases, I mean anything where the defendants are looking at up to 6 months to lifetime in prison. And of those 24 cases, I've tried murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated robbery, felony and misdemeanor DWIs, felony and misdemeanor assaults. Of those 24 serious cases, I've only lost 4 times. So I'm pretty good as a trial attorney. I can step in day one and take the bench. I also want to tell you that my wife and I run the Friendswood Community Prayer Breakfast. We've been doing that since 2001. I'm active in the community, and I've been endorsed by State Senator Larry Taylor and also Dr. Robin Armstrong. The prayer breakfast is a great way to get people together. You get people from different churches together. We've also had a lot of speakers who are Republican officials at that prayer breakfast. So my pleasure to be here today. Again, my name is Byron Folk, running for County Court number 3. Thank you.
And rounding out our opening statements, I should say, Donnie Quintanilla.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening. My name is Donnie Quintanilla, and I'm running for judge at County Court 3. Thank you, Ron. And I was born and raised in Galveston, lived in Galveston County all my life. Lived here in League City for since 2002. with my wife. We've been married. This will be our 14th year. We have 2 kids, a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. And I'm a former prosecutor. I was a prosecutor here in Galveston County as assistant district attorney from about 2003 to 2006. And it was in law school, in my 3rd year of law school, that I decided I wanted to be a prosecutor. I had a temporary bar card and tried numerous juvenile cases as a 3rd-year law student. So I joined the district attorney's office in 2003. I was in misdemeanor for about 10 months and was quickly promoted to the felony section for the last couple years while I was in the DA's office. I've tried everything from traffic tickets to murders to rapes to sexual assault of children, all those things nobody ever wants to hear or talk about. I decided to go out into private practice in 2006, handled a little bit of a variety of all types of cases, but my main practice is criminal law and juvenile law. I'm also the Friendswood City prosecutor. I was appointed by the City Council as prosecutor in 2013, March of last year. And over my time with the district attorney's office and as a prosecutor, I've handled thousands and thousands of cases. I was named in 2010 by Texas Monthly Magazine Super Lawyers Edition as a rising star. Only about 2.5% of lawyers in the entire state of Texas have received that honor. I've served on the Resource and Crisis Center board for 2 years, and I'm a member of the college's state bar. I have been on both sides of the law. I believe judges should follow the law, not legislate from the bench. I believe judges should be hard workers and have common sense, have integrity and ethics, and I believe that I have all those things, and I'm well respected by those in the legal community to be your next judge.
Time. All right, time now to get into the questions. We'll be going in the same order for this first question, then rotating through the candidates throughout. And the first question will go to Judge Barbara Roberts. Describe your general judicial philosophy and how you would or are applying it in court.
I believe that everyone who appears before me needs a fair and impartial hearing. That means you don't look at their position in the community. You don't look at their political party. I don't know people's political parties when they come before me. You don't look at their income. I don't have a financial statement in front of me. You're looking at what the facts of the case are, what is the current law as established by our legislature, and you apply that law to those facts. You render a decision as quickly as you practically can. Sometimes that means you can do it immediately from the bench. Sometimes that means you need to take more time to review arguments, testimony, and exhibits. Thank you.
And the same question to you, Jonathan.
My philosophy can be summed up as follows: impartiality, rule of law, not politics. Bottom line is, a judge is charged with applying the law as written, not making it up as he or she goes along, not bending the law to meet a certain circumstance so that certain outcomes are reached. It's an exercise in restraint. There's got to be discipline, and there has to be really, in effect, a servant's heart, that is, to serve the law as it's written and to demonstrate the restraint that's tough to do sometimes when you feel like you want to go one way versus another, but the law requires a final outcome that you got to reach.
Thank you. And now over to the County Court number 3 candidates. Same questions. And we'll start with Judge Carrie Foley.
I think everybody up here is going to say that a judge should be fair. I always go out of my way to listen carefully to all of the evidence, all of the relevant evidence that's presented to me. I listen to both sides of any case. I think a judge should be knowledgeable of the law, and I try to stay abreast of the current laws. And I think a judge should always apply the applicable law, the right law, to the situation, and render a verdict that is fair without consideration to necessarily their party affiliations or somebody's status in the community, fair based on the law and the facts and the evidence presented to them.
Thank you. And Jack Ewing, same question.
I think the great thing about this state is that we still get to elect, not select our judges. So that's what's important, is to be able to look at the qualifications of people that are going to be sitting on the bench making important decisions that affect our daily lives. So you want a judge that, first of all, is knowledgeable of the law, every area of the law that is handled by that court. Second of all, you want that judge to hold fast to the law. We have a legislature that creates the law. We are to apply the law, and we do it in a fair and impartial manner, and we apply that law even if it's not the popular thing to do. That's the kind of judge you need. Somebody that will do the right thing pursuant to the law and based upon the evidence.
Jack, we're going to ask you next time around, we get a little bit closer to the microphone, if you would, mainly for the stream here. We can hear it inside. All right, the same question to Byron Folk.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take a little bit different tack than the others, although I agree with what they've said. I've been blessed, along with my wife, to do a lot of block walking during this campaign. I think that's the best way to get to know the voters and to see what's on their mind. I think the best judge is a judge who has their finger on the pulse of the community and what the community standards are. My responsibility is to follow the law. It's to make sure that my docket moves very quickly and smoothly. Justice delayed is justice denied. But the main thing is, when I'm making decisions on cases, when people are in my courtroom and they're found guilty of driving while intoxicated or beating their wife, I want to be able to look at them and say, I have a message for you from the people of Galveston County. Never do that again, and I'm going to punish you to the fullest extent if that's what you deserve. I want to do what the people of this county want me to do. Thank you.
And rounding out the first question, Donnie Quintanilla.
Thank you. I believe, kind of like the others have been saying, that the judge's role is to call the balls and the strikes. You follow the law as it is written. I'm a strict constitutionalist. I believe you follow the law as it is, and that's the only way you can be fair and impartial to all parties. And you have to treat everybody with dignity and respect as they appear before the court. At that time, they're innocent until proven guilty, or if their case is pending, you need to determine whether their case holds water. So you have to treat everybody with dignity and respect before you get to that final issue of punishment or awarding of damages. So I think it's very important to treat everybody with dignity and respect.
Thank you, sir. All right, our next question. Again, 1 minute to answer, and we'll be starting over with the County Court number 3 candidates, and Jack Ewing will get this first. Have you or would you accept campaign donations from attorneys or firms that are likely to have cases before the court? If so, what would you say to voters to convince them you would not be influenced by those donations?
Yes, I would accept donations and have accepted donations of a number of attorneys that practice in this county. And the thing about it is that I've received donations from both sides of the bar, plaintiffs' lawyers, defense lawyers, and to me, I believe that they are making an investment in making sure that when their clients come to court, that they have a judge that they know will apply the law, that knows the law and will apply the law. They have a vested interest in having a judge that is a good judge and one that they can trust. I have given in the past to different lawyers that are running for judge because I want to make sure that my clients get a fair shake when they go to court. So I take that as an honor when the various attorneys, even ones that have been on the other side of cases with me, say, Jack, you're our guy because we know that we can count on you to do the right thing.
All right, and same question to Byron Folk.
Thank you. I also have received donations from attorneys. Most of them are friends who've known me for a long time down at the courthouse. They know I'm a good, kind-hearted, fair person who's going to treat people well. I think, as Jack says, that if attorneys are supporting you, it means they're the ones that are at the courthouse every day. They're the ones that see whether we're competent or not and what kind of job we do. And so there's nothing wrong with receiving that, but the problem is the public perceives that there's something wrong with it. They're very concerned that we are fair and impartial. And I think what we should do is really limit the amount that any judge can receive, because my concern is that some attorneys and firms, you know, if you get everyone in a law firm to support a certain judge, that's a lot of money going their way. So we need to do more to regulate that and to cut the limits down. But I have no problem with receiving contributions from longtime friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron. Appreciate it. If you would, sir, also you may want to lower your mic a little bit because the camera may make it look odd on the screen for you there. All right, same question now to Donnie Quintanilla.
I agree with what everybody else has said so far. I would be concerned actually if a judge did not receive a donation from an attorney. That probably does not speak very highly of that judge. And I think the issue is if you have a judge there, you want to support that judge because it's a good judge, and that's why you want to help them to be reelected. But judges must, base their decisions not off of donations or who gave it to them, but based upon the law and the facts of the case, and solely if that's it. If anybody ever gave me a donation expecting some type of favor, and I felt that way, I would not accept the donation. So I think it's okay.
And rounding out from the County Court number 3 candidates, Carrie Foley.
I think I might be saying to some extent what my colleagues here have said. Of course, I would take donations from attorneys. I think that it is not necessarily a negative thing when an attorney gives a donation to a judge. It may simply be that they hold that judge in high regard, or that they respect that person and their skill in the courtroom. I have set up a rule for myself where I take only a reasonable amount. I won't take an excessive amount from any one person, and I don't take money from anybody who does not know me well enough to know that won't gain them favor in my courtroom. And if I have any question about that, I simply decline the contribution and ask them to support me in another way.
Thank you, ma'am. Now to the County Court number 2 candidates, and first up with that question, Jonathan Kieschnick.
Well, soliciting campaign donations is not something that's come real natural to me, but the way I've handled it with lawyers and non-lawyers alike is I've gone back to the very beginning of time for me and gone to people who know me well. The vast majority of donations that I've solicited are from those who are non-lawyers. However, I have accepted contributions from lawyers, and I will accept contributions from lawyers who think that I can do a good job and that I can manage the court appropriately. As it relates to protection that the public would like to see to make sure that I wouldn't be unduly influenced, if you look at my campaign finance report, the donations that I've solicited and obtained from lawyers have come from both sides of the docket, plaintiff and defense. So nobody can even think that there's an undue advantage gained.
And same question to Judge Barbara Roberts.
All right. I have accepted donations from attorneys and law firms, and I will continue to do so. In Texas, judges have to stand for elections on a regular basis. Elections cost money, and money must be raised in an attempt to run an effective campaign. The amount of contribution that a judge can accept from a lawyer or a law firm is limited by the law already. I think the real question is not so much accepting donations or contributions, but can you as a judge, are you going to be influenced? Whether it's because somebody gave you money, whether it's because you're dealing with someone, an attorney in Galveston County versus an attorney from out of the county, whether you have a party who attends your church standing in front of you, or maybe just your next door neighbor. The best way to determine if a judge is influenced by anything is just to watch that court. Watch the rulings. If you watch my rulings and my findings in cases, you will determine that I have not set aside my neutral and objective character because of donations or knowing a party or because someone is a local attorney versus an out-of-state attorney.
All right. And now our next question, and Barbara, you get to come right back up again, Judge. This question, since this is a party primary election, explain your voting history. Have you ever voted in another party primary? If so, then the party you're running for. If so, how often and how long have you consistently voted in the primary for the party to which you seek the nomination for this office?
Well, as I said earlier today in another debate, I've been a Republican since I was a little child. In fact, my first time that I recall taking a stand and getting in trouble for it is when I was in elementary school. I wore an I Like Ike button on my shirt to school and was told I had to take it off. I wasn't smart enough at that time to argue freedom of expression, but I got there eventually. I have always been a Republican many, 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 many years ago, and I'm talking I don't know, maybe 20, 25 years ago, I did vote in one Democratic primary, and it was for a friend. And there were no Republicans running in the primary for any of the races that that needed my support or my vote. That's the only time I've ever voted. Ever since then, I have voted in every Republican primary. I've served as a state delegate. I am a Republican true and true.
All right. Same question to you, Jonathan.
Well, the first time I was eligible to vote for a president, it was for George Bush Sr. I have been active and voted in the Republican primary here in Galveston County since about 2010. And my voting in between George Bush Sr. and 2010 has varied depending on the candidates who sought election. I was taught a long time ago that you vote for the candidate not necessarily along partisan lines. Now, partisanship, or at least my political affiliation, does mean a lot to me. However, I have in the past and will continue to always vote in line with who I think is most capable, most suitable for the position.
And a moderator's discretion here to clarify, the question was about primary voting. And when you said you voted for the president, was that in general or primary?
That was both primary and general back in '88.
All right. Thank you, sir.
But I have voted in Democratic primaries in between that time.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. As you notice, candidates, every once in a while I'll have you clarify those along the way. All right. Now, the same question now we'll go over to Byron Folk gets to answer first.
Thank you. I'm a lifelong Republican. My father ran for district attorney as a Republican in Washington State back in the 50s before I was born. I was raised in a great Republican home. We lived in California when Ronald Reagan was president. When I was 20 years old, I cast my first vote for president for Ronald Reagan in 1980. I've always been a Republican. I've only voted in Republican primaries. I've never voted in a Democrat primary. And I think that's very important. That being said, I agree that you vote for the individual. Even though I've always voted in Republican primaries, you should vote for the individual. And even though I am a Republican through and through, I supported John Ellisor when he was running back in 2002 to be the first Republican since Reconstruction. I was a Republican when Republican wasn't cool, as Judge Kerry Neves likes to say. I also want the Democrats in this audience to know that none of us up here I think, intend to run our courts as Republican courts. Democrats are people, too. And everyone should be treated as a human being. And just because I'm a Republican and I'm true to my Republican values and more conservative, I'm a conservative Republican.
Time, sir.
Thank you.
All right. And same question, Donnie Quintanilla.
I have voted Democrat. My father is Judge Roy Quintanilla. He was the judge of this very court that I'm running for many years before he lost to Christopher Dupuy, who was the Republican candidate at that time in 2010. The last time I voted Democrat was in 2010. I've always voted for my father. Who wouldn't vote for their father? As I was raised is, you know, you vote for the candidate, and my father's a very conservative person. Many Republicans voted for him. If you look at the numbers, many times you could tell where people crossed over and voted Republican for him. So I have, and that was the last time I voted Democrat was in 2010 primary, and ever since then I voted Republican.
All right, same question to Judge Foley.
Well, I'm proud to say that I am not just a Republican, but I'm a very conservative Republican. I have voted as far back as I can remember in every Republican primary, and I've always voted in their general elections and even the citywide elections. And I'm pretty faithful to the Republican Party. I'm sitting up here thinking as these others are talking, I think that there might have been one time that I voted in the Democratic primary. Is Judge Lonnie Cox back there?
No, Please no engaging the audience.
I'm sorry. If there was ever a time, it might have been in that regard.
And same question, Jack Ewing.
I voted in the Republican primary back in 2012. Prior to that, I had voted in the Democratic primaries. And I guess I just go by the old adage that says if you're young and not a Democrat, you don't have a heart. if you're old and not a Republican, you have no brain. So I guess as I've gotten wiser, as I've gotten older, and but that doesn't mean that I haven't embraced the conservative values over the past years that are the very foundation of the Republican Party. I've been 10 years as a senior pastor of Faith Community Church. I've served on the board of directors for the Crisis Pregnancy Center back in the 90s, and I'm supported by Christy Ann Dixon, who's still the executive director, and I've served as the chairman of the board of directors for Mainland Christian School. I don't think we should put any labels on people. I think we should look at what they stand for and what they've done, and I think that you can see that I have stood for traditional family values and those conservative values in the past.
All right. Question number 4, Donnie Quintanilla will start this. He's one of the candidates. Again, folks, this is a reminder. On my right is the candidates for County Court number 3. On my left, the candidates for County Court number 2. This may be a little more apropos for this particular court. Given what happened with regards to County Court number 3 and the Christopher Dupuis saga, do you believe the current system for disciplining lawyers and judges is effective? Why or why not?
I believe the system is effective. I believe the system is slow. You know, we knew about issues with Judge Christopher Dupuis for a long time, and we had to deal with him for a long time. So I think it's effective, but it's a little bit slow on how quickly we get there and have someone who's not qualified, who is, you know, doing things that are illegal before they get removed.
Done, sir? All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. All right, same question, Judge Foley.
I think the system that we have is far too lenient. I think that we dealt with the saga of my predecessor way too long. I think that in order for the public to be able to have confidence in their judicial system, they need to know that whenever judges and even attorneys misstep, that there's going to be swift discipline and swift justice. And I think that the saga that went on with Judge Dupuis caused some concern for that. So no, I think it's far too lenient.
And Jack Ewing?
You know, I find it interesting to hear all the other 3 candidates talk about how terrible the system was and how slow it was to remove Judge Dupuis. Here's the difference between the candidates up here if you're looking to separate these candidates here tonight, because as Byron said, we're all qualified, but who's best qualified? Who's going to stand up for you? I was the only one, only practicing attorney, that one of the few practicing attorneys that stood up to Judge Dupuis, that went and testified against him at a recusal hearing, issued an affidavit which was attached to the petition to remove him. That's because I knew that was the right thing to do. It was frustrating, the process that we had to go through to try to remove him. I believe we need to remedy that. No judge who had done the type of things he did, the wrongdoings, the criminal acts he was involved in, should be allowed to stay on the bench as long as he was. We should have and implement a system that removes that judge and has a hearing on it, at least has a hearing to remove him within 90 days, or else he puts at jeopardy all the other persons in that court.
All right, and now over to our County Court number 2 candidates.
Wait,
and
I haven't.
Oh, I'm sorry, Barton. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. I lost my own track. My apologies.
No problem. It's not strong enough. I don't know if all of you know this, but even though Judge Dupuis was charged with 2 felonies and 4 misdemeanors and pled to a couple of the misdemeanors and did a substantial amount of jail time, he still has a license to practice law right now. That was reinstated to him, and that's a disgrace. Lawyers sometimes have a hard time disciplining other lawyers. Judges sometimes have a hard time disciplining other judges. It's not strong enough. Chris Dupuis should never be allowed to practice law in this state or any other state. And we've got to hold people accountable. That's why people do things like Dupuis did, because you get that black robe disease when you get up on the bench. You start thinking that you can do whatever you want. Those folks have to be held accountable. I admire Jack for holding Dupuis accountable. I really didn't have anything in his court, so there was nothing personally I could say bad about him, but he should never practice law again.
All right. Sorry about that, Byron. All right. Now we go over to the County Court number 2 candidates, and first with this question is Jonathan Keeshnick.
I don't think the system is effective. I've talked with, on occasions when I've been appointed to represent people charged with a grievance. I've been appointed to represent those who've alleged to have committed a grievable offense. And in so doing, I've seen, number one, that oftentimes the system really does prey on the vulnerable, those who are mentally vulnerable, as well as those who don't have the means financially to fully defend themselves. Also, in my discussions with those who are prosecuting grievances, talking to the people with the state bar, they've complained that they're basically undermanned and underfunded. So I think that those issues remain, even as it relates to those people working for the system. They feel like they're up against it and can't effectively do their jobs as aggressively as they need to under all circumstances, not just select cases.
And same question to Judge Roberts.
I do believe that the system is effective. I was appointed by the state bar to serve on grievance committee, and during my tenure on that, I was involved in hearing complaints brought against attorneys and determining what their punishment, if any, should be. The system is like our justice system. It enables someone to file a complaint against an attorney. It gives the attorney an opportunity to respond to the complaint, and it's heard by a minimum of 3 people selected from the community to hear those complaints and render an appropriate punishment. I do agree the system is way too slow. Judge Dupree his law license was not reinstated. It was never removed. And where they are in that process, I don't know. The state bar will not proceed with grievances against attorneys if there are pending criminal cases, and that was part of the delay. Those criminal cases are now over, and I have no idea why the state bar is delaying any criminal complaints.
All right. And Judge, you'll get this next question, and it's somewhat related. On that note, and we've talked about the process, but on that note, and given the power of the straight ticket vote, which most will note that got Judge Dupuy in office in the first place, what can the political parties do to better vet candidates?
That's an easy one. The political parties can and should not necessarily vet the candidates because it has so many different meetings to different people, but they need to educate, and the voters need to step up and get educated on their candidates. If you look at your ballot, you'll see that the judicial candidates are way down at the bottom. You are electing your Texas Supreme Court justices. You are electing judges that sit in all 14 courts of appeals. You're electing your state district courts, you're electing your county courts and your JPs. It's up to the voters to educate, it's up to the candidates to put their qualifications and experience forward, and it's up to the parties to get that message out.
All right, same question to Jonathan Kieschnick.
I don't believe that it's really the political party's role to vet candidates. The electorate must be trusted. The people are those who can vet the candidates. Certainly a free flow of information from candidates from both parties is what everybody wants, but the lion's share responsibility rests with the candidate to get him or herself out there, and with the electorate to be involved, to ask the questions, and to vote as they see fit without influence of a select committee within one party or another to make choices for people, in essence.
All right, and same question, Judge Foley.
I'm not sure the party should vet necessarily a candidate. I do think that the party should gather information, and as Judge Roberts said, I think that they should provide that information to the voters, but I think it is the voters' responsibility to make sure that they seek out what information that they want to educate themselves so that they know the candidates, they know the backgrounds, they know the professional history, personal history if they want to, and political history if they want to, so that they can make an educated decision.
All right, same question, Jack.
I tend to agree with that. I don't think it's the political party's responsibility to vet the candidates. I think one of the vital things that the political parties can do, though, is to help be a medium to circulate information about the candidates so the voters can make informed decisions. I think one of the greatest things and examples of that is a voter's guide that will go out, that's being put out by the Galveston County Republican Party. It'll have information, valuable information for voters that are looking to find out, who's most qualified. And we'll talk about, the candidates and what they believe the issues are and what changes they would make if in office. And those are important things that I think you want to know as voters. That's why you're here tonight, is to learn more and to gather more information so that when you go to the polls to vote, you can be a more informed voter.
All right, Byron, same question.
Thank you. Chris Dupuy was a wake-up call for the Republican Party, and they are addressing it. All of us on this stage were at a debate earlier today at the Pachyderm Club, which is a prominent Republican club in Galveston. We've got another debate scheduled with the Galveston Republican women next Wednesday, and that's the way to do it. Have forums like this where questions can be asked and answers can be given to weed out any candidates that aren't appropriate for the position. Ultimately, we've got to do a better job of getting our friends and neighbors involved in the process. This room should be packed tonight. This room should be standing room only. We've got a lazy electorate who goes into that voting booth and they see 4 candidates for a position. They don't know anything about any of them. That should never happen to a free people, or we will cease to be free.
All right, Donnie?
I believe it's not the party's responsibility to say, this candidate's better than this one or anything like that, but I think they should help to circulate information to make a voter more educated. And I think with Dupuy and his situation, if anybody, would have just looked him up, just a regular voter, not even so much the party, there was tons of things about him. He had filed bankruptcy, had liens on his home, he had his license suspended, he had some corporations dissolved against his will. And no one ever saw him at the courthouse. I don't think anybody had ever seen him before. He just came out of nowhere. But it's important, I think, for the party to help, get information out to the voters to become more educated. And when you educate the voters, don't just educate them on someone's voting history. Educate them on their legal experience. How many cases have they tried? How long have they been a lawyer? What types of cases have they tried? Not just their voter history. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next question up. What can be done in the county court system that would make the process more efficient for those before the court as well as less expensive for the taxpayers? And this time up, we'll, let's see where we are on the order here. It is, I believe, we're back to the county court number 3. Jack has this question first.
I think that there's several things that we can do. First of all, the judges don't control the budget that's assigned to a particular court. We would have to work within the confines of the budget that we're given to work with. But there are several things that we can do. One is do a good job of making sure that people that are applying to get court-appointed attorneys are filling out those applications and review them and make sure that they don't have the resources to be able to hire their own attorney. We don't want to be assigning attorneys and incurring fees and costs that we don't need to if somebody has the ability to get their own attorney. Secondly, we need to stop granting a bunch of continuances on these misdemeanor cases. I think far too many continuances are granted. And remember, on court-appointed cases where that court-appointed attorney is showing up, he's charging by the hour for being there. So if he's there and it gets continued, he has to show up again. If it gets continued again, he's there. You see that the result of that is counties incurring more and more costs. We also need to be more aggressive in recovering those costs and fees from defendants. Thank you.
Same question, Byron Folk.
Court appointments and docket control, I would agree with both of those. Sometimes judges do not scrutinize the applications for court appointments strongly enough. We have too many people who actually have family members and who have plenty of resources to get an attorney, who get a free attorney because they fill out a form and it's not scrutinized very closely. We've got to do a better job of that. Docket control is extremely important. I'm not speaking about any judge or attorney in this room when I say this, but we've all known judges who leave early, who aren't at the courthouse from 8 to 5. We know judges who will only take one trial case per week. I have a fond memory of trying a misdemeanor Monday and Tuesday, and then Judge Lonnie Cox put me to trial on a felony on Wednesday. That's the way it's supposed to be done. Try as many cases as you possibly can. Move your docket. Justice delayed is justice denied.
And same question, Donnie Quintanilla.
I agree with what folks have said so far. Many times individuals request court-appointed attorneys, and it's very important that we, review that pauper's oath. That's their application to determine whether or not they're eligible for a court-appointed attorney. And if they are, then granted, they should get a court-appointed attorney if based on disability or indigency. But if they are entering some type of plea, we have to make sure that the county is reimbursed at the county rate as part of that plea agreement. I think it's important also that judges are timely, like was being said, is that if files are sitting there on the judge's desk waiting to be handled, meanwhile an attorney is just sitting there in the courtroom, clock's ticking, they're charging the county, and that's not just one lawyer, that's multiple lawyers that are handling court-appointed cases. Also civil cases, you have to get them in, have the hearings. It will reduce costs for civil litigants and family litigants. So it's important that the judge be timely and move those cases through.
Thank you, sir. And over to our county court number 2. Oh, I'm sorry, Carrie. I did it again. It's something about this side of the table. It throws me off. I want to get over here to the left. My apologies. Carrie, Judge Foley.
All right. I'll tell you some of the things. Do have a reputation for being fairly efficient. I'll tell you some of the things that I've done in my court to be efficient. I do scrutinize the request for court-appointed counsel and the pauper's oath, but I don't stop there. I make them come back and bring me financial information, tax returns or pay stubs, or I've even asked if they're on disability. Sometimes if I'm suspicious that maybe they're not being completely honest, I ask them to bring the disability paperwork. I ask for proof that they're indigent. And if I get it, I appoint the court-appointed attorney. I do ask them to reimburse the county for a portion of, and sometimes all of the fees of the court-appointed attorney. I review attorney vouchers. And I refuse to waive fees that are due to the county. If they have fees, I make sure that they get paid. And I actually set up programs in 2 of my courts to collect past due fees to the county. And in one of my courts, I did so, I increased the collection amount by 200%.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we'll go over to county court. I know y'all have been biting at the bit over here to get the question. Jonathan Kieschnick has this for him first.
The other candidates have made some good proposals, and I might add from a civil standpoint, I think the involvement by the court, by the judge early in the docket control order process on a case-by-case basis would be helpful. What I mean by that is when the judge sets the pretrial deadlines that the lawyers must adhere to, some cases can be expedited, can be handled in a more accelerated fashion than others, and if a judge stays on top of his or her docket, efficiency can be gained that way. In addition, it's critically important that a judge issue timely rulings. We talk about not giving continuances and how the parties may not be as prepared as they should be for trial and want their trial delayed. Well, sometimes parties can't be ready for trial if they don't know what a ruling is on a pending motion. Those motions, a decision has to be made no matter how hard it is, and once done, the parties are well positioned to move forward and try the case efficiently.
And Judge Roberts.
First, let me explain. In misdemeanors as well as in felony cases, we appoint attorneys to represent people who are accused of a crime. For misdemeanors, we pay those attorneys $66 an hour. The average number of hours for misdemeanor cases is 3 hours, $198 per hour. One of the things that I have done for years since I've been on the bench, if someone has a misdemeanor and the prosecutors say, we want to follow the felony charge and take care of both of them in felony court, I don't continue that case until 30 days out. I set it out for when to follow the felony so that that attorney does not have to reappear. Continuances have to be reasonable. If someone tells me they're waiting for a blood result from DPS and it's going to take another 6 months, unfortunately that case needs to be set out for 4 or 5 months to track it. It does not need to be set out 2 weeks or 4 weeks later to cause another $66 for that attorney to come in. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate it. And I'd like to thank all the candidates for keeping on time. We're exactly right on the mark to start our closing statements here. Nice job, folks. Lesson to the next candidates in the forums. All right, so we'll start off our closing statements, and we'll go in the reverse order from what we did before. So we will start 1 minute for each candidate, and Donnie Quintanilla gets to start. Your mic, sir.
Thank y'all for coming out. We appreciate y'all being here. You know, I think what you need to look at is what makes us unique, what makes us different than the other candidates. And I have handled more cases than a lot of the folks here. I've handled criminal cases. I handled 400 to 600 cases a month as a misdemeanor prosecutor, 100 to 300 cases a month as a felony prosecutor. I've handled a lot of cases ever since I've left the district attorney's office, and part of being the judge is managing a docket. You have to know how to manage a large amount of cases. The percentage of cases in this court, there are about 2/3 of these cases are criminal cases. The last third is civil, family, and juvenile. So the majority of these charges are criminal cases that we'll be handling. The misdemeanor courts handle 10,000 misdemeanors a year. I'm the only candidate who's a member of the College of the State Bar. That means I take more continuing legal education hours than anybody else up here. You know, and I'm not looking for a retirement plan. I'm looking to get to work for you. You know, I've got a good job. I make, you know, good money, but I want to be a judge.
Time, sir.
Thank you.
Byron Falk with his closing comments.
Thank you. It's very important for a judge to have certain qualities on the bench. One is a proper judicial temperament. You have to have a good reputation with your fellow attorneys. As Donnie said earlier, you don't want a judge on the bench who's treating people badly or curtly or yelling at them. It's very important. I've been blessed with a good reputation in my law practice. I've never had any disciplinary problems with the state bar. My fellow attorneys speak well of me at the courthouse. I've got a good trial record. And I believe I have the judicial temperament. I'm a licensed ordained minister. And with my work with the Friendswood Community Prayer Breakfast, my wife and I are used to getting people together. We meet at the Baptist Church one month. We'll meet at the Catholic Church the next month. We've had all sorts of speakers. Lonnie Cox has spoken a couple times at our prayer breakfast. John Ellisor, Larry Taylor. We've had Jack Rhodey several times. We've extended an invitation to Judge Barbara Roberts to speak this summer. It's wonderful when you're active in the community. I've also been doing a lot of block walking. It's very important that if you're running for judge that you get to know the people in the community, not just the same 50 people in all the meetings you go to, but actual people in the community. That's what I've done. Thank you.
Time, sir. Oh, got it. Thanks. Good. Before I had to snap you down. All right, Jack.
This is a court where we need to do some things and do them quick in order to restore the public's trust in this court after the Dupuis travesty. We need, the people want somebody with experience. I've got 27 years of it. The people want somebody that they can trust, that has the same family values. I haven't just led a prayer breakfast, I've led a congregation for 10 years. I've learned how to help them in resolving conflict. And I want nothing more than to get that opportunity to help in being a judge that can help people resolve their conflicts when they walk through the courtroom doors. That's what I stand for. And I believe that people want to be able to walk through the doors of a courtroom and know that they're going to get a fair and impartial trial from a judge who has a knowledge of the law and the ability to be able to give them a trial quickly and efficiently. That's what I plan to do, and I plan to make sure, just on a final note, that we expedite hearings involving family violence. I'm going to hear those cases not within weeks, but within days. Our children deserve it. That are getting injured and abused out there. Our families deserve it, and that's a promise from me.
All right, and Judge Foley.
I agree that with what my colleagues have said about what the court needs, but I'm here to tell you that I've already restored integrity to the court. I've already restored order to the court. I am the only candidate up here that has judicial experience. I've already run 3 courts. I have a record already. I am your known candidate. You know what kind of judge I'm going to be. I've been a judge in this county in one capacity or the other for over 11 years. And so while the attorneys up here can talk about what they would do as a judge, I'm here to tell you I've already done it. I've been a success at it, not in 1 court, but in 3 courts and over again. Thank you.
All right, and to the final closing statements from our County Court number 2 candidates, and Jonathan Kieschnick gets to start.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk in front of y'all. I've been a member of this community for a long time, and I'd like to serve this community. I'll tell you this, though, if you're looking to elect a politician in a black robe, I'm not your candidate. Don't vote for me. If you're looking for somebody that'll be fair and impartial and respect the law and recognize the relevance of the United States and Texas constitutions in this county court, then I'm your candidate. I've got the experience to get this job done right. I've been practicing for 17 years. I've worked on both sides of the docket. I've represented companies big and small. I've represented individuals of all walks of life. As one lawyer put it, I try to be a people's lawyer, and I'd like to have an opportunity to be the people's judge here in Galveston County.
And Judge Roberts, you get the final word.
In 2010, I made certain promises to the community. When you elected me, I have kept those promises. I believe strongly in the conservative values, and I believe very, very strongly in both the Constitution of the United States and the Texas and in the laws of the state of Texas, and I apply them fairly and impartially. My opponent talks about principles, certain principles. Every judge, every candidate for a bench wants to strive for those principles. They want to reach those principles. My opponent is talking the talk, but I have been walking the walk, and I would appreciate your support in the primary. Thank you.
And as a point of that, as I said, a direct comment about an opponent. Sir, 30 seconds to comment if you like.
Anybody that knows,
Mike.
excuse me, anybody that knows me knows that when I talk the talk, I walk the walk. Give me an opportunity, and I'll prove myself right on that one.
Thank you all very much. Some closing comments here. First, give a hand to our candidates up here, if you would, please, folks. As I said at the beginning, this is the first of 4 forums the Galveston County Daily News is hosting this year. The next is Monday night at the College of the Mainland Learning Resource Center at 5:30. The Justice of the Peace Precinct 1 candidates. That'll be followed by the County District Attorney candidates. And then at 7:30, the State Representatives for 23 candidates. Then next Thursday, we'll be at Santa Fe High School, 6 p.m. The JP Precinct 2 race will be the first forum. The second forum at 7:30, the County Commissioners Precinct 2 race. That's at Santa Fe High School next week. And then the final one will be coming on the day before early voting on February 17th. Jury Assembly Room, Galveston County Justice Administration Building in Galveston. JP3 candidates at 5:30. And then we have the 212th and the 306th District Court following that in the forums as well. And then as a Valentine's Day gift to everybody, we'll be publishing a special election section that day. I'm sure your loved one would love to have that as a gift. Almost every, and then also this Sunday we debut the questionnaires. Only one candidate of everyone in the field running this year actually answered the questionnaires. That's our best turnout ever on the questionnaires, and so those will be debuted online in the paper, online at galvnews.com on Sunday. So be looking for that, and then the print edition will come out on the 14th. And of course, as I said, early voting starts on the 18th. Again, a hand for our candidates. We'll have our Galveston County Judge Forum will begin at 7:15, so enjoy yourselves. Thank you.